Hello, my name is Greg Germany, and I'm currently a student at Northwestern State University. This was a group project for four of us, and we were given the task to come up with points and a PowerPoint presentation on what Americans should know about conducting business in England. The members of my group were Andrew Robinson, Kendra Johnson, Francis Ferguson, and myself. The professor is Dr. Tammy Krogan. The topics we'll cover today are the social customs, the family life structure, the class structure, the political patterns, the economic institutions, the food, the clothing, and the housing, the value system, and the religion. Social customs. There are three main ways of greeting someone in England that is much like we do here in the United States. The most common is the handshake. Another might be a kiss to one cheek or the other, or a hug. The other thing is a greeting followed by a handshake, such as how do you do and a handshake. The things to avoid in social structures with the English is they value a personal space. So make sure that you're not in someone's personal space for very long, because it's often considered rude in England. And the family life is basically set up just like it is here in the United States. It generally consists of a father, a mother, and children. However, in today's modern times, there is single-parent families, and there also are the alternative lifestyle families that are also here in the United States. So there's not much difference between family structure here and there. Class structure. Class structure is very different in England than it is here. The main difference is that they are under monarch rule. Monarchs include kings, queens, dukes, duchesses, princesses. That is a clear separation from the upper class, which is the middle class. They largely consist of landowners, business people, people of great wealth. And then there are commoners, which are laborers, anybody that generally gets paid an hourly wage for services. So basically in England, from where they started, there was never a way to change class. If you were born into that class, you remained in that class. In modern times, that has changed somewhat. There has been movement from class to class. That is, that a commoner can now gain a business and gain some monetary wealth and move into the upper class. There's also a movement from the upper class to the monarch. Case in point, Kate Middleton. She was upper class, and she has now moved into the monarchy by marrying a royal family, so she is now a princess. So there is now a movement that is different from what they had in the very early beginnings of England. Political patterns. Political patterns are a little bit different because, again, they're in a monarch rule, but they also have a parliamentary portion of their government that is divided into two portions. It is the House of Lords, which is appointed by the Queen, and the House of Commons, which are elected officials. So it is very similar to our House and Senate here in the United States. The Queen really has very little control over what happens, and it is much like our President, who has to gain approval through the House and Senate. The economic institutions in England. England has a very large economy worldwide. It has a great influence on things that happen economically throughout the world. And one of the few things that the country follows is a mixed economy system, which means that citizens have the right to sell products but they are influenced greatly by the government. The government can institute rules and regulations that will prohibit the sale or regulate the sale of products. That is much like our systems here in the United States, such as the EPA and the FDA. They regulate us as well. Well, they have those same similar systems, just a little bit of a different setup. London is one of the leading financial institutions in England. It comprises of about 20% of its total economy comes out of London. Just an interesting little fact. Housing. Housing is very similar here than right here in the United States. The two common pieces of housing that England has is what they call flats. Here in the United States, we call that apartments. The other thing they have that is very common is row housing, which is a large block of housing that is connected together into one large building and then subdivided into individual living spaces. They have the National Office of National Statistics reported that there were 23.4 million people surveyed, and of those 23.4 million people, 15 million of those owned their property, and 8.3 million of those rented their properties. Clothing, there's not much difference between here and the United States. They tend to be a lot more conservative than we do. As far as business clothing goes, they really tend to go back to the traditional styles of clothing. For men, it usually comprises a suit jacket, pants, tie. For ladies, it usually comprises of dresses and nice attire for business. The dress codes to events need to be paid close attention to. They usually state, especially on private events, on the invitation, they will state exactly what that dress attire is comprised of. On public events, such as regattas and ascots, they tend to be very, very formal, black suit and tie affairs. And you need to pay very close attention to what the dress code is. Unlike here in the United States, as long as you usually have clothes on, you're usually permitted to attend the event. In England, if you do not dress appropriately, they will usually deny you access to the event. Food. Food is very, very similar there as well. They do follow the basic food structure that we do here in the United States: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They have, usually their biggest meal of the day is lunch. Between lunch and dinner, they usually have an afternoon tea, which is different than we do here in the United States. Afternoon tea usually is either tea or coffee and a small finger food, and that usually gets them after they're usually about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Most business is conducted over lunch, not dinner, in the UK. When they go home in the evenings, that time is theirs, and they usually don't mix the two. So it's usually done during business hours. Their value system. The value system that they have, they place a big value on the use of proper etiquette. This doesn't matter whether they're in their personal life within just whether they're out shopping or whether they're using public transportation. They place a big importance on the use of proper etiquette. The opening of doors for ladies, the personal greetings and stuff, they place a lot of value in use of personal etiquette. Now, also in that value system, they have reported, the New York Times reported, that England is behind the times in as far as women are treated in business. Most of them have reported, more than 1/5 reported in a survey, that their professional advance has been stopped because of the differences, because of the way they treat women in business. They claim that the lack of promotions and the lack of training are some of the reasons why that they don't they aren't treated equally to men. So men are placed highly valuable in business, and women tend to not gain higher positions in England's business system. And religion has played a huge role in England over time. Religion in England generally started out as pagan. So they believed in multiple gods at the very beginning. Through time, that has evolved. Christianity was brought to England, and today it is the largest majority of people are report to be Christian. Matter of fact, in a 2011 survey done by the National Statistics Office, 59.3% reported that they were Christian. The second largest group in 2011 was the Muslim community at 25.1. The Muslim community has continued to grow, and they've expected that it may have been, until 2016, it may have grown by over 25%. There's also a large portion that claim that they have no religious affiliation at all. That's over 1 million people. 4.8% have said that they have no religious affiliation at all. So, and there are also other groups there, as far as the Sikhs, the Buddhists, and Jewish communities also make up there. So it's very, very diverse. And as you can see, religion is becoming more and more important in business, and just need to be very aware that you may run into very many different religious views when you conduct your business in England. That concludes my report on religion, and also in business, how to conduct business in England. And I appreciate your time and